Welcome to North Norfolk's deep history coast. 36 kilometres of unique coastline following the Norfolk coast path from Cart Gap in the southeast to Weyburn in the northwest. Deep history is the period sometimes known as prehistory. The phrase describes this period much better because in general, the deeper you go down, the older things get. And the rocks beneath us here tell the story of the world millions of years into the past. Each section of sediment contains clues to how the world looked long ago. It's the story of an ever-changing landscape, warm seas to frozen tundra, deserts to temperate river estuaries. If you drilled a hole straight down in North Norfolk, as well as seeing rocks of different ages, you would find the rocks were of different types, each type reflecting the environment in which it was formed. People often mistakenly think of Norfolk as being flat, but as you can see, it's actually pretty hilly in places. At Beeston Hill, affectionately known as Beeston Bump, the cliffs plummet over 60 metres down to the sea. Beacon Hill, just over there, is the highest point in Norfolk, at an imposing 105 metres above sea level. Now that's hardly flat. Here we will tell you the story of how the landscape that we see today tells us about the environment of years ago. If it wasn't for the last ice age, some features of North Norfolk wouldn't be here at all. Over the last 2.5 million years, the world has experienced repeated cycles of warm and very cold climates. This has had a profound effect on the landscape. During severely cold periods, ice caps formed and expanded, covering much of the land in ice, in places up to 4 kilometres thick. The Cromer Ridge is a huge glacial feature. It's what's left of what's called a terminal moraine, formed as the ice sheet retreated. Think of it like a giant ruck in the carpet, left over when the ice sheets bulldozed their way from north to south. The power of the ice was immense, and here at Overstrand we can see that thousands of tons of rock, known as chalk rafts, have been plucked from the land and flipped over into the cliffs. River and woodland deposits that are about 500,000 to over 1 million years old can be seen here at West Runton Beach. It's the richest source of fossils anywhere in the British Isles from the Pleistocene epoch, between around 12,000 and 2.6 million years ago. And so fossil hunting on West Runton Beach is a great way to explore the deep history coast. This is where the UK's largest and oldest mammoth skeleton was found. You can expect to find a whole host of different rocks, minerals and fossils, such as sea urchins, sea sponges, fossilised wood, rhino teeth, giant deer antler, hippo tusks and bison horn. Discoveries across Norfolk, but especially along the North Norfolk coast, have been vital in helping us to understand our own deep history. Fossils are important to science and education, as well as to our culture. They form part of our natural heritage. The discovery, collection and study of fossils is fun and exciting and gives us the chance to find out for ourselves about the deep history of our planet. Exposures of the forest bed formation can be found in cliffs from Weyburn in the north to Kessingland in Suffolk in the south. These important deposits have been studied for over 250 years and are vital to our understanding of how climate change affects animal populations. In fact, North Norfolk has produced finds so important that there's even a period named after Cromer, the Cromerian stage. The forest bed formation at West Runton is the type locality for the Cromerian stage and is the benchmark against which all other sites of this age in Europe are measured. The Cromer forest bed formation generally represents a slow-moving river in a flat landscape, rich in grassland and woodland plants and animals, much like the Norfolk Broads today. the climate of the time was almost identical to ours today. Think Norfolk Broads, except with hyenas, lions, bison, rhino and mammoths. Crag is an East Anglian word meaning a shelly, stony, rough layer. These deposits cover much of East Anglia, but a good place to see them is at Weyburn on the Deep History coast. The crag is made up of clays, muds, sands, gravels and pebbles. They're often cemented together by iron-rich sediments, which give the deposits a reddish or orange, rusty colour. They are generally between about 2 million years old and 5 million years old. The oldest layers represent an almost Mediterranean climate, followed by increasingly cooler conditions as the Ice Age approached. Walrus, dolphin, narwhal and even orca were living here at the time. There's a gap of over 60 million years between the deposition of the crag formations found in Norfolk and the most recent chalk deposits of the Cretaceous period. This is because any sediments that were laid down during this time were washed away by later seas that formed the crag. The oldest rocks to be found on North Norfolk's Deep History coast were formed during the Cretaceous period, around 100 million to 70 million years ago. They're known as the white chalk deposits, and within them are preserved the remains of a fascinating variety of ancient animals, including sea urchins and belemnites, which are extinct relatives of today's cuttlefish. During the Cretaceous, East Anglia and much of Europe were covered in a warm, wide sea. The climate was subtropical, and reptiles ruled the world. It was the countless millions of tiny plankton skeletons called coccoliths that accumulated on the sea floor, which created the deep chalk deposits on which Norfolk rests today, which we can see exposed in the cliffs on the coast. But it isn't just the cliffs that contain chalk. The Cromer Shoal chalk beds, sometimes known as the Chalk Reef, is an area of 320 square kilometres, stretching 10 kilometres out to sea from Weyburn in the west to Haysborough in the east. This marine conservation zone isn't just home to the famous Cromer crabs, but a rich and diverse ecosystem of animals and plants that rivals even the great tropical reefs of the world. Whether you're a seasoned geologist or just a fan of beautiful landscapes, there's so much to discover along the Deep History coast at any time of year. The ancient landscape is dynamic and exciting and constantly giving up its secrets. And there are plenty of ways to explore and enjoy the Deep History coast. Walk the Discovery Trail and stop off at the 11 discovery points. Each point gives information about the amazing animals that used to live there. There's a Deep History Coast app that you can download on your phone. You can use the app at each discovery point, and you can use it to help identify fossils whilst you're on the beach. There are also some great games and wonderful augmented reality to transport you right back in time and walk amongst the mammoths. Or head along to the museums at Cromer and Sheringham, where you can see wonderful fossil displays. You can even take any fossil finds along to be identified. And you can find out much more about the Deep History coast at the North Norfolk Visitor Centre in Cromer. We hope you'll come exploring soon. There's so much to do and see, and who knows what you'll discover from the 100 million years of history of North Norfolk's Deep History coast.